Okay, hello everyone. This is just a video basically going through a lot of the questions that you did over the holidays that you'll be doing over the next week or so, and really just trying to clarify how to use or get in the habit of using economic language, and also clarifying some of the issues you have with some of the content. I've had a look through the sheets you filled out last week, so the key learning intentions, and these are some of the things that I'll highlight in more detail in these videos, because sorry. These were areas where there were more people that had low or medium on their sheet. So it's things like a lot of the efficiency questions we'll spend a lot of time on in class, and how to answer these three economic questions is another key area that we'll be looking at in these videos. So what I'm doing in here is just going through that sheet. I've sort of broken it down into all the different areas of study that were included in that sheet, and I'm just going to provide you with answers and ideas over the series of videos just to get you in the habit of using the right language when you're doing these types of questions. So some of the things on the checklist are really just definitions. They're not big areas where you need to learn a lot of information. So for example, if you get asked something like, what is economics? Really all you're saying there is that economics is a study of choices. It's a choice of how we allocate scarce resources amongst competing uses. The definition of an economy or economic activity is any region that where expenditure, production, and income takes place. So the definition of economic activity is any transaction, any type of activity where production, income, or expenditure takes place. To be counted as economic activity, it has to be measurable. So what I mean by that is it generally involves where there's some form of dollar payment. So economic activity would not be me going outside and mowing my lawn or cutting up firewood, unless we're going to sell that in a normal marketplace and receive revenue or money for that. Then it's not classified as economic activity. That's your key thing to learn there. Economic activity, any production, income, or expenditure, if any of those three things are occurring and it's being recorded and there's some form of dollar payment, then it's economic activity. Remember, production, income, and expenditure, and you're on the right track. The overall goal of society is just to maximize the living standards of their citizens. So that includes material living standards and non-material living standards. I'll talk to you a little bit more about rational decision making and thinking at the margin in a second. And then just with micro and macroeconomic concepts, we'll go through those as well. So again, economics, the study of choices, economic activity, the total income, expenditure, and production occurring within a nation. And again, the key thing is it has to be measured formally. So if you get a multiple choice question, which of these is not economic activity, it's the one where they're not really receiving a payment or a dollar term. So for example, if I coach the volleyball team, it's not a very good example because I'm getting paid as a teacher, but if your coach on the weekend of your volleyball team is not getting paid, that would be a good example of something that's not economic activity. Where if you're part of a business and you sell a bike, then that would be an example of economic activity. When we're looking at the term rational decision making, what we're saying is that people compare the net benefits and net costs of decisions and make their decision by weighing up the net benefits and net costs. Rational decisions is when you make choices where the net benefit exceeds the net cost. So if you're going to get $5 of enjoyment out of a can of soft drink, if it costs $4, then you would say that's a rational decision. If it's going to cost you $6, then it would be an example of an irrational decision because your net benefit is less than the net cost. The term thinking at the margin, what thinking at the margin means is that every time you undergo a transaction or you make a choice, you think about the benefits and the costs. And if the benefits exceed the costs, then you undergo that transaction. So in this case here, the benefit of going to see a movie, as you can see, it goes down each time, and that's the concept of diminishing marginal utility, which we'll talk about in Chapter 2. You're getting less satisfaction the more times you do something, because you've already seen the movie, it's not as enjoyable, for example. That same concept could be looked at when you're, say, buying your lunch. If you buy 3 Subways, you're going to get less satisfaction out of the third Subway, if you're eating them all at the same time, as in one after the other, on the same day, than you would out of the first one. So thinking at the margin just means you compare the benefits in this column and the costs, and you do the transaction if the benefit exceeds the costs. So going to watch the movie the first time, you're getting $30 of benefit, you're getting $10 of cost, benefit exceeds cost, you're likely to go watch the movie. The second time, again, your benefit exceeds your cost by $5, benefit of $15, cost of $10, you'll go watch the movie. The third time, your benefit is $5, the cost is $10, the cost exceeds the benefit, therefore, using thinking at the margin, it would not be rational for you to go the third time. Your benefit does not exceed your cost. Thinking at the margin, comparing the benefits and the cost of the transaction, and only doing it if the benefits exceed the cost. Examples of the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Again, microeconomics studies the various sectors of the economy and how they operate. So we might be looking at the manufacturing sector or the mining sector. It's looking at the decisions of individuals and consumers or businesses but not on a macro level. Macro level looks at individuals. Well, macroeconomics looks at the economy as a whole and then provides some examples. So that can be like the level of inflation, unemployment, income distribution. Microeconomics, individual sectors, individuals and businesses. Macroeconomics, how the economy is performing as a whole. Again, factors of production. This should have been in the next video, but I'll put it here, my apologies. The difference between entrepreneurial and labour resources. The key thing is that entrepreneurial resources coordinate the other resources. So they're in charge of the land, labour and capital, to ensure, and their aim is to make a profit, and they take risks by running a business, whereas labour resources are the physical and mental efforts of humans in the production process. They get a wage or a salary generally for their contribution, and don't receive the profits of the business. They don't own any of the business, and they don't coordinate the other resources. Be mindful though, managers are not entrepreneurs. So your manager, say if you do a shift at McDonald's, they don't have they're not really earning, their wage is not really based on the profit. They don't own the business. They're just working for the business as well, just like you are. They just have a bit more power than a normal employee. And last question. Explain using a relevant example the concept of rational decision making. So there's 4 different answers here. It's not a massive answer. These are 4 different ones. Best to use, as I said, use an example to say what you're doing, and you've got to use a really clear-cut example. Don't use one that doesn't really explain the concept. So rational decision making is about thinking at the margin, meaning that the things you purchase should have a benefit that exceed the cost. Rational decision making involves maximizing utility for the lowest possible cost. For example, if someone decided to purchase a car for $1,000 and they would usually spend around $2,000 a year on public transport, they would be thinking rationally. The benefit of the car would exceed the cost. Another good example here would be if you assume that consumers make rational decisions which allow them to gain the maximum satisfaction from their economic choices. For example, if one supermarket is selling a tub of ice cream for $5 and another is selling it for $8, the rational decision would be buy it for $5, as this will maximize your utility. That's a great example. It's best to use the same product and show that a rational decision, the easiest way to go about these questions is to choose the same product and say that by choosing the cheaper one is more rational because there's a bigger gap between benefits and costs. That's how I would approach that question. Just use the same product, ice cream, chocolate, sandwich, who cares? If it's exactly the same and you choose the cheaper one, you would argue that's a rational choice. If the products are different, you might be willing to pay more for the high one because it might be better quality. But if the best way to answer this question, same product, compare the benefits and the costs, the lower cost would be a rational decision. Thank you.